ladies and gentlemen, a classic, classic, classic. I got that from there was this collab that I think Manny Fresh and Yassine Bey, also known as Most Def, they were gonna do this collab. I think they did the collab, but I don't know if it was a full on album. I think they might have done maybe one record. And long story short, it was really cool. They had they had documented uh when he was named Most Def at the time, was like, man, one day we need to, we need to do some work together. And they finally did it. They were in the booth. It was great. It was great. I don't know what happened though. I don't know what happened. I don't know if the album never, took off, or if they did it, but they just never um, published it. I don't know. I don't know, y'all. But anyway, um, when Manny Fresh got on the mic, he was like, uh, a classic, 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 classic. Like he did his own echoes, which was so cool. Versus using, which is a testament to like how even those old school. I hate calling them old school because then that means that I'm old school. But those producers, they didn't rely on tech for every single thing. He did his own echoes. Anyway, I want to just check in on you, check on your heart, check on your mind. It's the middle of the month. Actually, technically, we're a little bit over the middle of the month. It's the 17th of January. How do you feel? It's a Friday night. Some of you might not even be thinking about this. You might not even be on any of the platforms that I'm streaming on right now. You might be Netflixing and literal chilling, or, or not. But the point is, for those of you that are here, and you might even see this a little bit later on, how do you feel? How do you feel? So we know that January is typically the month of fresh starts, right? So many people view this month as a blank slate of sorts. It inspires uh, from both a personal improvement, development side of things. So we've got like fitness goals, we've got self-care routines, but then we also have some business objectives as well, right? You're looking at revenue targets, you're looking at any new projects that are kicking off this month. And so what you might feel, I'm speaking to my high achievers on the verge of becoming the overachieving burnout type. You come back. Don't go to the edge just yet. Relax a little bit. We're only 2 weeks in. Trust me, I know how you feel. And so conducting, perhaps, I don't know, I have a hunch, conducting a mid-month check might help to maintain some of the momentum that you've already been building. And what you can also do is just create an opportunity to reflect and adjust before the initial energy, the burst of energy that you've had as the new year began, before it starts to shrink. Okay. So perhaps this segment, I don't even want to call it a segment, but this, I don't know, session, this stream, you could do a few things maybe to help you to realign some goals. Remember, it's only been 17 days, so it hasn't been that long. So on a personal level, maybe it's just making sure that you're on track with any health or financial or personal dev goals. And in business, obviously, kind of checking your alignment between, let's say, for instance, departmental tasks and maybe the overarching company objectives. Some of you guys might be in a situation where you don't necessarily know the overarching company objectives. You at least should know your team's objectives. All right. You can start there because depending on the size of the company, you might not be able to do that. So, but also what you want to do too, listen, 17 days, but spot some other early wins. Okay. High achievers. Listen, we have a habit of skipping over the wins oftentimes because we focus on the challenges. So spot the early wins, spot the early challenges too, but sit in the wins for a little bit. Those tend to kind of give you a boost too. It kind of motivates you to keep going. So identify what's working well, and then what could be impeding progress. I know we're only 2 weeks in, but there could be some things that are impeding progress. So it could be anything from like personal time management, or maybe it is a team-based task that needs to be executed. Whatever it is, spot those things so that you can just pivot before February. And I know that, and depending on the project or even the job that you're doing with your personal work, you may need to do it through February in order to get some result. It really just depends on what you're doing, right? But I would say typically 2 to 3 weeks is a good time to start checking to see what's working and what's not working. I have a great example for you guys that I'll probably share later on. But the other thing too is you want to make sure that you're sustaining motivation. Yeah, it might be cliche to be like new year, new me, or new year, same you, but the same you is the fabulous you, or whatever the case is. But I don't, lean into it, lean into the motivation, lean into the cliche that we all kind of buy into when it comes to the new year. Why not? It's an opportunity to to feel, at least to feel, or to convince yourself that you're starting fresh. So there's no reason to kind of throw that away. Take that opportunity to do so. And so this midpoint reflection hopefully can just kind of boost your personal confidence, and um, hopefully, if you're in any teams, to just keep them engaged, if it's in a professional setting. All right. So what should you do? Well, the first thing that I would suggest is, if you want to use this first half, or leverage the first half of this first month of this new year in a way that's going to help you to have February become a stellar month, and then March, and this for it to stack on, is you need to start collecting some data. You need to start collecting some information. So from a personal perspective, you can gather any personal metrics, records of progress. Listen, when I say anything, for those of you that have a smartwatch or a smartphone, or um, I don't know, wearables, anything that's tracking something. Some of y'all got rings, like Aura rings, things like that. Check those things, gather the data. Okay. Um, all of that is considered progress. Okay. Some of you actually have an actual habit tracker. I used to have a habit tracker. I don't have a habit tracker anymore. Um, hmm. I don't think I'm going to add one anytime soon. I think it's just a whole nother additional tool that I just, at least right now, I really don't need, but it could be helpful. And if I can remember a few of the ones that I've used in the past, I will share them with you. I think there's a free one called Habitify, but I think that one is browser based. I don't think it's an app per se. Um, Super simple, but it probably wouldn't be my first choice. But if you had to choose something, anything to keep a streak, right? So if you have, like, any kind of tracker for daily workouts, you might have a budget app, or some of y'all are still old school. I mean, you might have a spreadsheet still. Journaling. So if you have any journals, personal achievements, that would also be helpful. And what you want to do is you want to just take note, even if you have to literally write it down, just kind of take note of how often you've hit those targets, or maybe have faced some obstacles. Some of this is easy when you have a coach, right? So for a large part of what I will be sharing with you is coming from my physical health experience that I'm going through right now, right? In the last 3 years, 2 to 3 years, I've been through 3 different trainers, and each trainer served their purpose. One, or at least the very first one, I actually had to I don't know what you want to call it, discontinue, because I just moved locations. Because I moved locations, I also had to just discontinue the service with that particular trainer. The second trainer, I think I've mentioned this before, I just outgrew the program that he had. Program was great, but as I was looking for more, it wasn't something that wasn't necessarily adaptable for where I was going. And so now I'm um, with this third trainer who's super obsessed with nutrition and me getting my steps in. As a matter of fact, as soon as I click off this live, I'm going outside to get the rest of my steps in, y'all. I've been in the house working all day, so let me see. I'll tell y'all right now how much steps I got. I only got 2,075 steps now. So that means that I got about 8,000 left to go. So that's going to take me at least like an hour and a half or something like that. Right. Um, so I just want you guys to keep in mind that even I have personal goals. I'm looking for something that I can't find it. Even I have some goals that I have in mind that need to be achieved even tonight, and it's going to get done, right? But why did I bring that up? It's because those are the things that I'm able to track right now, and so I can keep a pulse on hitting my targets and also what's getting in the way. From a business approach, though, you might have some things like KPIs. Those are called key performance indicators, or it stands for key performance indicators. And you might have, perhaps, depending on some of the tools that you're using, for those of you that are super deep into business intelligence, you might be using performance dashboards of some sort. Any kind of relevant analytics tool or just analytics, period, that just show how your team, how your department, how the product, right? Maybe the website, whatever it is, how it's performing so far. And it also could include anything from like sales numbers, web traffic, production schedules of any sort. Definitely net promoter scores or like customer service metrics or customer satisfaction metrics. So that could also be a thing too. So we're bringing this up because you want to make sure that you're collecting information. For those of you that are checking in, I'm checking in on you. Mid-month, like, how do you feel? How's it going? Well, check the data first. Check the evidence of what you've actually done before you start sinking into the, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough. I need to go. I need to go harder. Do you really? Maybe you do. But let the numbers speak for itself. If you don't know, if you haven't really been able to track, then ask yourself, what do I need in order to track now for the second half of the week? I mean, the second half of the month, so that you can start off February strong. Okay. The other thing that you want to do is you want to kind of take a look at or reflect on your uh, team, perhaps input, or maybe your support system could be another way of putting it. So from a personal perspective, reaching out to friends, maybe family members, mentors, coaches, anyone who can offer insight into how you've been managing your personal goals. Right. Like I told you before, it gets easier when you bring other people into your life, like coaches or trainers, because it's their job. So many times they will have in certain regards, a better pulse of what's going on than you do, as you're kind of managing everything else in your life. They're focused, of course, they may have other clients, but they're focused on one particular thing or goal, or maybe a set of goals that are all connected to each other, so that, it makes it easier as they're looking from the outside in, what's working, what's not working. All right. So we consider that a support system, right? Ask them for honest feedback. Listen, this time last week when I went out, y'all, I had remember the crazy story? I went out and I had the guy write. Well, I didn't have him write a poem for me, but I ran into a street poet who knew a poet that I met, what was it, like 10 years ago in New York City. Like, they know each other. And so as we're chopping it up, I didn't even realize that he was writing something for me. And then he rips it off of the typewriter that he has as he's sitting on the street corner. He hands it to me. This beautiful, almost kind of prophetic statement of like what the year is going to look and feel like for me. And it's really what it seemed like, what it felt like. And where was I going with that? I was going somewhere with that. I don't even know where I was going with that, but it was a great experience. Oh yes, because I also had a slice of pizza that night too, and I also had a Coke. Yeah, I think I might have admitted that too on the live when I came back, and I was like, I deserve it. Yeah, my coach didn't think I deserved it though. Yeah, he was. Why? Because we were tracking. I'm using the RP Diet app. Oh my goodness. The apps don't lie, man. So he was looking throughout the week. Last week, he was looking through, every day. Because before, I would take photos of meals just to see. He was just wanting to see how I was eating. This is before tracking anything. He just wanted me to take photos every single day, every meal, sending them. So that already got me in the habit of tracking. The way he systematized things is crazy. It makes you feel as if it's it's easy to do until he gets you into the more intricate things, which then become a little bit more simple or easier to execute because he's already gotten you through his system. So long story short, he looks at the app and he's like, A pizza. Now, this means that I have integrity. I had to put that in there. And I was like, listen, I'm trying to hit my macros. I needed a little bit more, fat in my thing, some carbs. So I just decided to grab a pizza, grab some Coke, and we good. He was like, no, don't do that. He got on me about that even up until this week, man. He was like, no pizza this weekend. I'm not a pizza person. It was just one of those nights though. Last week, I was like, man, you know what? I'm out here, enjoying the city life. Like, let's just go get it. Go, you deserve it. Coach is like, no, why? Because you are in the leaning phase of your process right now. So even if you're hitting your macros, you got to hit it in a healthy way. That means that I have a very boring, it doesn't have to be, but I'm very minimalist. I need somebody in my life who's going to help me to zhuzh some things up. But until that happens, listen, I got a boring set of meals right now, but it's hitting the mark. All right. So here it is, where you got a support system. Support system will help, especially when there are times that you feel like you do deserve something. And maybe you do, but not right now. All right. From a business perspective, though, what you want to do is you want to conduct brief meetings. It could be Slack check-ins with direct reports, colleagues, and this can happen scheduled. It can be unscheduled, but the point is you want to always just kind of do those check-ins. The best teams that I've been on have done these, right? You want to pose open-ended questions like, hey, what roadblocks are you seeing? Or how are the current processes supporting our goals to gather qualitative data? It's just super important. I know that sometimes depending on a particular project that I'm in, like in my current role, we may look for ways to speed up a particular project or process. And that means that I, in my role, need to look for certain roadblocks or obstacles or challenges that could be preventing us from hitting that, which means that I have to, kind of put on that detail-oriented eye. I told you about my father a little earlier. I think it was last week, and what they called him, he was an iron worker back in the day. They called him the finisher. He was the guy that came in afterwards and was just making sure that everything was square on. True story. When my TV was being put in and I sat on the couch just to see like how the level where it should be, and they were kind of putting it together, like kind of aligning it. And I told one of the guys on the left side, I was like, it's like 1/8 of an inch off, or so I don't know whatever number I used. I was like, it's not quite straight, which is weird because I have astigmatism. And I believe part of the astigmatism situation is there's like a curvature in your retina or something like that. So like lines bend. Is that true? I think it's something to do with that. I know lights streak at night, and so you need glasses to make sure. But the point is, he's like, really? He's like, I don't know, I don't see it. He took the measuring tape and he said, wow, it was like 3/8 of an inch or some praising him from where I was sitting. He was like, wow, how did you know that? I was like, my daddy. It's in the genes, y'all. So anyway, it's one thing though to be the finisher, right? Which is great. It's a great quality to have. It's another thing to do these things while you're in the process. And I'm pretty sure, because he was a supervisor, he not only did it at the end, but he did it throughout, the entire building stage. But the point is, depending on your role, you have to have a keen eye for certain things. Right? You need to be able to pinpoint certain obstacles and maybe even be proactive in sharing what those things are before waiting to be asked or addressed, so that you can, in essence, make some of that progress a little bit more quickly. All right. The other thing that you want to do as you start reflecting on the first 2 weeks is you can then pivot to kind of evaluating. After your reflection, start evaluating the current progress against the goals that you've already set for not just this year, but what did you set for January, right? If you did one of the daily planners, remember I showed you guys the year, what's called the year compass, yearcompass.com. You can map out the entire thing, but then break it down to quarterly goals. Like, what do you have for January, February, March, right? For Q1, what does that look like? And then break that down to the month. What do you have for the first month, January? And then what did you have for the first week, all the way down to like, what do you have for the first day, down to the first hour, right? Like what What is it? So start evaluating, compare your targets versus what actually is happening. So from a personal approach, you want to look at what you intended to achieve by. You may not have said, you know what, I want to achieve this by mid-January. You probably didn't think about that. So that's okay. But maybe it was at the end of January. Either way, if you did have something mid-January that you wanted to look at, then look at that. What did you intend to achieve by mid-January? Whether if it's saving a certain amount of money, right? We're talking about personal now. Losing a specific number of pounds. Let me tell you all about the poundage, losing the pounds. Um, so I told you I'm in a lean phase right now, which is very interesting because there's a linear line that is supposed to, like, I think right now I should have like lost maybe 2 pounds. It's almost like a pound a week, basically. And y'all, my thing is not. It's like this. This is like this. This is the linear line. It's going underneath it, above it, like it is. And right now, it's starting to sustain. I'm at like 154. It's like I'm not budging from 154. So the app was like, "Hey, we've seen that you hit your macros, but you haven't really hit the target that we're looking for." Remember, I'm only been doing this in the first 2 weeks so far. So here's what we're gonna do. It was asking, how much nutrients do we need to decrease? And I said, there's like small, medium, large. So let's go for the largest. And so now what it's doing is it's dropping my carbs. So if you don't know what macros are, it's the combination of protein, fats, and carbs, right? Think of carbs like for energy, protein for muscle, fats for fats. And so it said, we're gonna keep the protein the same because even though you're working out, you want to keep the protein up. If you just start eating less to lose weight, then you lose everything too. You lose your mass, the muscle mass and everything. We don't want that. So keep the protein up. You need to have enough carbs just so you have some energy. And we can reduce the fat. So what it ended up doing was it actually it gutted out a lot of the carbs. So that means less rice, right? Anything that is just, carb centric. The point is this. I now have a new, like a pivot for how I'm going to be managing my diet for the next week. So the second half of January, but it took consistent tracking of this week for it to say, okay. We looked at week 1. It's like, okay, you're just getting used to it. Week 2, it looks like you still haven't hit what you probably should. You haven't declined as much as you should have. Let's make an adjustment. So this is where, once again, for me, losing those pounds, but keeping the mass. That's one of the things that, coach was telling me about, what's it called? Body dysmorphia, I think it's called, or something like that, where, especially when you're in the lean phase, he said he gets it too sometimes. You feel like you're just going to be shrinking and you're going to be small and skinny. You're just like, oh my God. Yeah, I used to be super skinny. And I'm not even where I want to be now, especially as I'm going through the lean phase. Like, y'all, end of this year is going to be, mark my words, next level, y'all. We next level. But the point is this. When I'm going through that lean phase, my mind is like, oh my gosh, you're just shriveling up. You just look like a prune now. And I don't. Prune is probably like when you're just coming out of the water, but you guys know what I mean. I still have the mass. If anything, what I ended up doing, and I'm probably going to address this later, is I looked at the photos. He has all of this stuff mapped out, by the way. So I looked at where I was when I started in August, September. He had me take like the first photo before he even started. And then where I was in, I think, November. And then where I was at the end of the year. And I was like, oh my goodness. This is, I'm seeing it. So you just have to trust the process, but that means that you have to track, right? You have to track your progress. Maybe it's reading a certain number of books. Whatever it is, look at the targets. What did you say you're going to do? And then see where you stand. Be honest with yourself. And then what you can do is you can start identifying any gaps between your initial plan and what the reality is. Don't lie to yourself during this process, y'all. If you lie to yourself, then you're not doing yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice. From a business perspective, what you can do is you can review January targets, if there are any. There typically just might be. anything from revenue, lead generation, those of you that are in marketing, and sales, user engagement, any of those things, and measure the actual results to date. Don't try to fudge it. Don't try to over explain. Just be clear in what it is. Once you do that, the hardest thing, as I've shared, with my students, and it's just the hardest thing that happens is when you haven't hit the mark on an assignment, as far as like completing it, is to own up to it and say, I didn't get this done. But this happens with employees as well. This happens with adults too. I mean, students were adults too, but the point is, it's like a confession, and you have to just say, listen, I missed the mark. But at least it helps. And what you don't know, or what you don't see in the process, is you don't see that there's somebody who's on the other end, whether if it's an educator, whether if it's I don't know, a manager, whether if it's a consultant, whoever, who's saying, okay, so now that we didn't hit the target, here's what we can do, or let's look at what's preventing us from getting there. Because I think oftentimes what we think is we don't hit the mark. Somebody's just waiting with, the I don't know, like some sort of punishment or some sort of, shaming to, say, why haven't you gotten it done yet? We need to get this. If you're under good management, or if you're a good manager, you won't focus on that. If you're good to yourself, you won't focus on that. But it's hard, because many times, especially as high achievers, we're harder on ourselves than we are on other people. And so we got to be careful of that. And so what we end up doing is we start projecting, well, if this is how I am with myself, I'm probably going to expect this from, somebody who I might be, let's say, for instance, a direct report to. They're probably going to come down just as hard on me as I am with myself, right? But relax. So from a business approach, you can just start pinpointing where the targets are being exceeded. Sometimes there are days where I went over my macros. There are days when I went under my macros. There are days that I hit it. I think right now it says that I'm at a 70. I can tell y'all right now, it says that I'm at like 73%, I believe. But that's because the first week was rough. Like I had to just keep tracking everything. At some point, I'm gonna hit a system where I'll be eating the same food, and this is difficult, especially for people who like trying diversifying and everything. I'm not really that person, which is why, y'all, I need a foodie in my life. But the point is, even for me, as I'm finding the right combination, that's for me what it is. It's not the variety, it's the combination of macros so that I can hit it every week. I'm finally starting to get a little bit of a stride. So it says I'm at a 75.6% meal adherence right now. So it's 31 out of 41 meals from since we began this year. Let me tell you a huge progress that's been made. I'm actually eating more, because it was been in the past very difficult for me to eat 3 meals a day, especially if I'm stressed or just in general, because I typically am on the ectomorph side of body types, where if I breathe, I'll lose weight. I'm a hard gainer. But then you have the endomorphs that's on the other end of the spectrum. They breathe, they gain weight just by inhaling. They didn't gain 2 pounds. You got the mesomorphs who are in the middle. I guess you can call those the thick ones, right? They can put on poundage if they want to. They can lose some pounds if they want to, right? Okay, so anyway, the other thing that you want to do, though, as you're evaluating the progress, remember, you're reflecting first. You're reflecting on the first 2 weeks, by gathering that data, looking at your support systems. Are they working? But not even about are they working. Ask your support, hey, what do you see? All right. Your support system can also be digital. All right. If you don't have an actual person who's able to give you insight in your personal or professional goals, right? The life that you've set out to have in 2025, with your goals. But after you reflect, you now need to evaluate, right? Evaluate the current progress. Be honest with yourself. So the other thing that you have to do is you got to prioritize. After you're looking at like the targets and where I am and then where I should be, you can then decide from a personal approach. You can just decide which goals matter most. Remember, we talked about prioritizing before. We said that prioritizing is super important. Don't try to get everything done at the same time. Don't give all of your efforts to everything. So like if your primary, and I hate to, use the word resolution, but your primary commitment, let's say, is to improve your health. Then you got to make sure that you're dedicating enough time to meal planning. Yeah, I still haven't really meal planned per se. Meal planning just sounds so disgusting to me, but it's a thing. Um, but the app actually allows me to at least meal plan for that meal before, you know, before eating it, which is interesting. I know it is. Usually meal planning is like you're planning like 5 days in advance. Oh my God, can't do that. But that's the thing. Or workouts, right? Stress management, things like that. But if we're looking at the professional side of things, one of the ways that you can prioritize is just determining which projects or tasks are mission critical, right? What's super important here? So if certain initiatives have fallen behind, decide if they still align with your strategic business objectives. And once again, I said, if you're on a team where you don't really have the bigger picture, then you can narrow it down to the specific tasks that you were given. Which ones can you kind of put off to the side so that you can focus on these and then come back later to the ones that it's like, okay, it still needs to get done, but it doesn't have to get done now. Kind of like the Eisenhower matrix, right? If everything is urgent, then nothing is urgent. If everything is important, nothing is important. But if you split it up, you can say, okay, I need to do this now. I can delegate. Well, sometimes depending on the project, you can't delegate it. It's been delegated to you. But maybe I can delay this just for a little bit so that I can get what's done now first. What should be done now, get those done first, and then do what I decided to delay or schedule out. I can tackle that. I mean, there may be some things that you can delete altogether, but probably not depending on the task. Maybe you can delete some free time. Maybe that's what you need to delete. But the point is, you want to be able to prioritize. So after you reflect and after you evaluate, you can then revisit and adjust. This is now where you start to assess your goal relevance. From the personal perspective, you can, I don't know, there could be times where you would have unexpected events. You want to be able to kind of prepare for those things. There could be a change in your work schedule, new family commitment, whatever. And those things have, made certain goals more, or it can make it less relevant. But the thing is, you don't want to be afraid to refine or to remove a goal if it no longer serves you. All right. So this is where, we talked about prioritizing goals, but sometimes you need to adjust them and tweak the goal itself. Okay. Business wise, it can be anything from like a market shift. It can be competitor actions. Maybe they did something and now same goal, but now the goal needs to be refined just a little bit based on what is happening from the outside, but not only external, it could also be internal too. Like maybe there's some internal resource changes, which could influence the relevance of your objectives. So once again, if a goal is no longer viable or if it's become more critical, which oftentimes happens in business, then you want to just go ahead and update the short-term milestones accordingly. Because remember, the milestones, the short-term milestones are like right now, your January, your February, right? And right now we're doing this mid-month check-in. So that's what the short-term would be. What do you need to get done so that your January can be a solid one? All right. The other thing too that you can do is, as you're assessing the relevance of the goals, which is closely tied to prioritizing the goals altogether, is just having some realistic work plans. So from a personal perspective, it's so simple, right? I call it triaging, right? You figure out after you break larger personal goals into smaller ones, and have them as achievable action items. Choose like the top 3. Once again, it's prioritization, right? And then you execute those 3, knowing that there's going to be some other ones that you need to get done. But instead of aiming to work out, for instance, 7 days a week immediately, just commit to 3 days of a particular exercise, like core. I remember before having a trainer, I actually had a virtual, in a sense, trainer. It was really a virtual program, and doing the check-ins myself. And it was, and some of you might know this, the 5x5 program. All you needed for it was a barbell. So you couldn't go to like a Planet Fitness because the Planet Fitness only had Smith machines for like bench presses. And so you needed to go to a proper gym that had the free weights and not just dumbbells, but barbells, the Olympic weights, and then every single exercise that I did, it was 5 sets of 5 reps. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it quickly got my endurance up. And so it hit every core because it was like compound workout exercises. So it hit the core every time, depending on no matter what I was doing, whether it was Russian deadlifts, whether if it was bench press, whether if it was shoulder press. Every single thing was done with the actual barbell. If you need or if you're interested in that, I would suggest going to this website. It's probably still around. Strong Lifts, STRONGLIFTS .com. As a matter of fact, let's see if it's still there. Stronglifts.com, and it pops up for me. It has the 5x5. This was y'all a solid website that had a lot of good information. They also had the app as well. Okay, I was doing this before they had all of the featured on and all of that. It had the videos. I can't remember this guy's name, but man, was he good at just kind of like breaking down everything. I did the 5x5, right, which is for the beginner. But listen, the program he has like spreadsheets, exercises, but there's a particular I'm gonna put it in again so that you guys stronglifts.com. Oh, here it is. I think this might be it. No, okay. Well, anyway, there is a very yeah. Sorry guys. For some reason, I'm very adamant now, just like wanting to show you guys. Let me see here. I'm gonna check right quick, muscle mass gain. Let's see what Google shows us. It might be this. Okay, this is the one. So this is when, as a hard gainer, I was looking at like, how do I just gain more muscle? Guys, take a look at how exhausted, and this is where he got me. Look how long, if you can see the scroll on the right side, look how much information. I know it's a huge margin, but look how much information he showed, he produced. This got me, I'm still going, I'm still scrolling. This got me to then eventually download the app. So first of all, let's just take a pin, put a pin in this right quick. For those of you that are trying to convince, a person or somebody to buy something, and he has given so much free material, but just with this one document convinced me, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. What else does he have? Does he help train? And he most certainly did. And that's how I got the app. I didn't get the app first. I came across this through a Google search. And then from reading and looking, and I didn't read every single thing, I was able to look at the specific questions that he even had, because it wasn't like this before. And what I was looking at was even just like how to build, like what do you need in order to just, have enough protein. The biggest thing that I got from this is he was like, listen, if you want to gain muscle, you have to eat. He said the biggest problem with a lot of us who are hard gainers is we don't eat. We think psychologically, we think we've eaten enough. And then also physically, like your body's just, your stomach's just a little smaller because you haven't, stressed it out with food. But the point is, you just think that you've eaten enough and you haven't. He's like, so the first step is just calories. You need to have a calorie surplus, is what they call it. And so from there, then he started to break down, like, here's what you could be eating. And so listen, y'all, I actually, starting last year, like mid last year, started eating chicken again for the very purpose of just making sure that I get proper protein. Fish is cool. There's only so much salmon your boy can eat. Started doing poultry too. Chicken, like it's just easier. I did it out of efficiency, y'all. It wasn't because I liked it. As a matter of fact, it took my body some time to start to digest it again. I mean, it's still working through it actually, but it's digesting chicken a little bit, slower. But anyway, the point is, lots of information here, and and check out Strong Lips if you get a chance. Have a realistic workout plan. So I started with that first. I started with his workout plan. And then as I started to progress, I realized I need to up this. I need to have a trainer. Not that I'm going to, I'm not going to be some pro athlete or anything, but, we all have different goals in life. And I realized that if I wanted to get to a certain point, I know that I was going to hit a particular threshold and I needed to find and it's so funny because I didn't really think about finding a trainer until I went to a place that offered it. And not that they convinced me, but they were, kind of persuading, like, based on what you're looking to do, you probably should get a trainer. And that's how I got a trainer. And now I can't see myself without one. Not that I can't do, the work without it, but there's just once again nuances for the season that I'm in right now. I need the trainer. There have been days, y'all. There have been days in those last 2 weeks that I just didn't want to work out at all. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Whatever it is, maybe it's not working out for y'all. Maybe it's something else, but I just didn't want to do it. But I knew that there was somebody that was in that gym at 6 a.m. waiting for me to show up. And if I didn't, I would have to, hey, can't make it. Like, accountability. It's like, I'm not only letting him down, I'm letting myself down, but there's somebody that's counting on me to show up. Number one. Number two, I paid for it. Listen, we actually had this conversation actually today, where he had clients that he knew wasn't going to be committed because they were thinking they just had this desire to just want to pay. But it's like and I said, yeah, it's like when they pay, they felt like they've done something. And so they've given you the money, but they didn't show up for the training. I said, listen, for those clients, what you need to do is you need to give them, you need to create like a committal fee. You need to double the price, because once the value starts to increase, I guarantee you they'll show up. Those are people, it's the people that got money, so there's like, oh yeah, I'll pay for it. And, but if you price it where it hurts just a little bit, people become more committed, depending on, who some people, they need that, right? Hit the pockets a little bit. But the point is this, what I'm saying is I needed that realistic workout plan. And for me, having the coaches help that. And it's not only in working out, right? Like in business as well. Like I had a business coach last year as well. And there were systems that we followed. Okay. And so you want to follow those systems in order to hit those marks, but you need to have a realistic work plan. So from a business approach, you develop a structured plan for the rest of the month of January. If you haven't done it yet, if you don't have the clear tasks, responsibilities, benchmarks, or timelines, get those things in place. And it's not just for you from a business perspective, for the team members that you're maybe in charge of, or that you're just on the team with, and say, hey guys, I have a suggestion. And make sure that each of those tasks are measurable, right? So that you can just easily track whether the adjustments are effective or not. So we do the reflection, right? Collect the data. We evaluate the current progress. We revisit and adjust the goals or the tasks, right? Getting really specific and realistic with, okay, what's working and what's not working. This requires you to be honest with yourself. But then you want to reinforce communication and alignment. Now that sounds very businessy, but from a personal perspective, what you can do is you can start sharing your findings. Okay. Communicate your progress or even your struggles with a trusted friend, with an accountability partner. If you don't have one, find one, or a coach. Find an accountability partner. It has to be somebody who that if you weren't doing the thing, you'd feel a little bit of disappointment because you had to share it with them. So sometimes your accountability partner can't be your bestie, can't be your best friend. You might be a little bit, yo, man, listen, I didn't make it today. No. It needs to be somebody, not that you don't respect them, but somebody that you hold in higher regard as an accountability partner. And it's okay if it's not your best friend. It doesn't mean that you don't respect them. Probably talk about this a little bit later, but this was a framework from Stacey Flowers. She did a TEDx talk years ago about the 5 people that you need in your life. You only need 5 of them. One is the cheerleader, and they all kind of correlate to the actual phalanges, the fingers on your hand. So The cheerleader, yeah, you can do it. Thumbs up. The mentor points you. The coach, let me tell you, if you don't have a coach that doesn't make you certain times want to cuss them out because they're pushing you, then you probably haven't gotten the right coach just yet. Coaches push. The mentors point. Coaches push. All right. Cheerleaders, they party. Hey. Now, they don't party for the toxic decisions that you make, but they just are in the corner for just like anytime you've done something, or you might just need some encouragement. Yo, man, listen, you got this, right? You need a cheerleader in your life. I think the reason why the friend is on the ring, I think it's because anatomically somehow the veins or whatever is connected, the blood vessel, I think something is connected directly to the heart. And so the friend is different from the last one, which is the peer. The peer is a person who, you can probably vent about work with. The friend, if you were to do that, would be like, well, maybe it's time to transition. And you just don't think, oh, well, no, I just want to share what it is. And so the peer is somebody who understands the nuances of your work life. So it's almost like a colleague. The friend is more connected to your personal life, your well-being. Not that your peer can't be that as well, but your friend would probably be the one that would encourage you to, I don't know, let's say, for instance, I'll use the example again, because I think she uses this example of like leaving a job versus like, no, there are things that you can work out and, make sure, because they're just like, I just want to protect you. I don't care about anything else, as your friend. So anyway, the challenge that a lot of us come across is that we tend to try to put or make one person all five. We want them to be the cheerleader, the mentor, the coach, the friend, and the peer. I'm not saying that people can't, in parts of your life can be some of those things, like one person can embody some of that, but every day or every time they have to show up as all five. That's first of all, that's codependency. Relying on one person to be everything for you. It's not healthy, but then also it burns them out, right? If you are with somebody, let's say a significant other, a romantic partner, which I think would fall under the friend, that would be the fourth finger, but all they're doing all the time is mentoring or coaching you, they're going to more than likely mentor or coach you right up out of that relationship. All right. So you want to make sure that you have the five individuals in your life, and choose wisely. So the accountability partner would kind of be in the coach arena. So you want to find the person who is just not like, no, I understand you. You had a rough day. That's right. I get it. You had a rough day. No, the coach is going to be like, no, why? Why didn't we do it? I know that the ball gets dropped sometimes, but tomorrow you can't do that again. Coach or the accountability partner is different from the friend. All right. Separate the two. Okay. So this is where you want to just, once again, make sure you're sharing your findings, communicating your progress with that trusted friend, that accountability partner, that coach, so that you can have this openness that can strengthen your support network and just kind of keep you focused on what truly matters, because sometimes you won't be able to do so. And so you need people from the outside to help you with that. Why? Because you're human. I don't care how strong you think you are. I don't care if you have like Tim Grover in your, what would I call that? In your network, Tim Grover was the performance coach for Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, like pushing, right? And training the mind, not just the body, but the mind, especially. You're still human. Okay. And even those people that had those superhuman mentality to just win, it also came at the expense of other things too. And most times at the expense of their family, right? So you want to have a balance. Anyway, from a business perspective though, so we talked about like just, being able to reinforce that communication by sharing personally with people that you trust. Business-wise, you want to just provide your team. If you have a team with succinct, just quick status updates that summarize progress, roadblocks, and next steps. So we do this with our team weekly, but some businesses, teams, departments, they may do it more spaced out, maybe bi-weekly or monthly, these retrospective meetings, right? Wins, blockers. What we tend to add is also rounds of gratitude, right? The gratitude keeps you grounded. And so I don't even think fill that out today. Actually, shame on me. So one of the things that keeps you though is being consistent with those things because it reminds you of the work that you're doing. And here's the great thing: even if you don't necessarily um, have the time or whatever to fill it out, if you're in the meeting, you get to hear some of the wins that you might have done that you didn't even realize that you did because you're in the team and there are other people that recognize. All right. So, business wise, just having more transparent communication is going to help to do a few things. First, it's going to help you to foster some trust, but it also keeps everyone united around the same objectives, which is super important. Okay. So it just bears repeating. What you want to do as well is with this reinforcement of communication is you just want to highlight the quick wins. All right. So from a personal level, like you want to acknowledge your mini victories. Like maybe you did stick to the budget for the first 2 weeks straight. Like there may be some things that you didn't hit, but maybe financially you got it in. Celebrate, but don't celebrate by spending money because that kind of defeats the purpose. But you get what I'm saying, right? So you want to acknowledge, though, at the very least, not acknowledge these mini victories. It's a mini victory because it's only been 2 weeks. It hasn't been 6 months, right? So keep that in mind and consider that. And reward yourself. Acknowledge but reward yourself in small ways to stay motivated. Don't make, I saved so much money, and then you take that same money and you blow it on some big reward. No, don't do that. As a matter of fact, I would even say delay the reward. High achiever talking. Delay the reward because it's only been 2 weeks. Pat on the back. All right, let's go. Okay, so business-wise though, you should be recognizing your employees. All right. Or entire teams, if that's what you're in charge of, that have achieved milestones ahead of schedule, or if they exceeded expectations, maybe they over-delivered, right? Maybe somebody finished a little bit more quickly. Acknowledge those things. So this positive reinforcement just fuels the morale and encourages continuous improvement in the team as well. All right. And then you just want to make sure to, especially from a business perspective, to collaborate on solutions. Just kind of bring together sometimes if the team is big enough, cross-functional teams to tackle some issues together. Sometimes it has to go beyond just your team. Invite somebody else in or another group in to solve the problem. Okay. We actually do this, what we call it the Industry Day projects, where we'll have the user experience design students work with the software engineering students. It's cross-functional. So we've got a real business that comes in with a real problem, and we give them the brief, and it's like a hackathon, 24 hours to work together, merging design with code, and to solve the problem. Helps them to understand the importance of why, ideas should not be, fostered in a silo, and how cross-functional teams are super important. But from a personal perspective, you can just brainstorm solutions with friends, brainstorm them with family, brainstorm them with your coach. Listen, I had a convo with my coach on Wednesday. I was like, listen, Friday we need some different music. We're gonna have to have some different music, coach. I can't do this upbeat RPM but pop version of some of these R&B songs. It doesn't get me. It's like, well, what do you like listening to, coach? What I listen to, you probably won't be able to play in the gym. Saying, I work out to gangster rap, coach. It's violent. It gets me getting the pump in. I don't know. If it's not that, coach, it is. Maybe is it 70s or 80s, like the rocky kind of instrumentals. It doesn't have to be any lyrics at all. I don't need lyrics. And if it's not that kind of pump, motivational kind of music, like the those kind of training montage type, movie score type stuff, right? It's silence. Listen, Friday, coach had a whole different playlist playing, and then he asked me, he's like, yo, how is this? Now, the reason why I have some leverage which is why I was able to address it, was I'm usually the only person in the gym that early. And because that's the case, it's not an open gym, it's a closed gym. So there's usually like maybe one, maybe two people in there, and but it's usually just me during that particular schedule that I have. So I'm able to kind of request like, yo, let's switch it up a little bit. Now I also understand that with that music comes the acknowledgement of a particular brand. Like there's a lot of things to consider. So it's not like I didn't consider those things when I told me, yo, listen, you know. But we've been going what six months strong now. I'm like, yeah, let's go ahead and switch it up. I can't listen to these love songs that's just on like a 120 BPM, even though it's faster, it's still talking about love. It's like, she's talking about heart loss. Like I can't do that. Or heartbreak. It's like I'm working out the heartbreak music. Can't do it. So anyway, brainstorming solutions and ideas. And so that was a quick example. Like we just workshopped today. I was like, yo, how's today? I was like, oh, this is good. I like this. I mean, it ain't the gangster, but I can work with it, right? So just coming to a compromise. So but yeah, in general though, discussions, even that, right? It can just often yield to just innovative ways to overcome any obstacles. Like mine was, I just need a little bit extra pump, and if we're gonna play music, and that could be that, or creating new routines, or just using some new online tools. It could be anything, really. And what you want to do next, you want to set up your support systems. Oftentimes, when people hear support systems, they think that it's people. It's not just people. It can also be tools. It can also be resources. This is a part of your system. So, personal examples can be like healthy groceries. It's a system. Listen, I have marked in, like I told you, how I'm kind of working with the macros. It's not what to get, it's how much, and how to combine it so that I can hit the lean phase. Because before I was in the maintenance phase. So now you're like, oh, well, all you need to do is just eat less of what you're eating. Not quite. Like if I eat less, it'll also be less protein. So I have to keep it in a way where I have still the same amount of protein, but less fats and carbs, which means that there may be some other ingredients that I need to introduce. The point is, as I've worked that out, that's a part of my support system, healthy groceries, workout gear. Usually when I live stream, if you see me down here, like looking down, it's because I'm picking at my calluses that will forever keep regrowing until, I just buy some hand grips. Well, I really don't care for hand grips, but there's certain workouts that I do need it. I need the hand grips. I just can't, based on how a lot of the workout machines, like it has those kind of I don't know what to call it, but it's already gripped in the metal. And so the way that it's created, that increases the amount of calluses. But anyway, it's really just on my knuckle. I don't even know what it's called. It's not the opposite side of my knuckle. Let's go. But it allows me to, do something in my pastime, as you can see me just kind of picking away at it. All right. So you can also think about like maybe having an organized workspace. It's a big one. When I sit down to stream, I have a very particular setup that I do my best not to touch. It's not even I don't touch it, y'all. So I can just show up, turn the camera on, let's just go. Let's ride. Right. So, and there's another space to do other work. Like, so there is dedicated areas where I live to get certain things done. It helps, but it also helps to not keep those things cluttered. Helps to keep it organized and keep it clean so that you're able to just show up and get the work done. All right. But yeah, so resource allocation is definitely a huge part of your support system. So from a business perspective, just verifying that each team has all of the tools that they need. They have the budget that they need. Any people or personnel that's required to meet the particular targets, so that if there's a shortfall of any sort, you can just request additional, if you have the capacity to, or the ability to, just request additional resources because you know what you need, or find some alternative solutions, like maybe you might need to outsource some things. So, but the other thing too is like just leveraging automation tools. That's a part of your support system, y'all. Listen, any apps like MyFitnessPal, I used to use my Fitness Pal, and then my coach was like, "We not doing that. That's for beginners." Like, coach, what do you mean? He's like, nah, we using RP Diet now. That's what we using. And because it just tracks things in a more meticulous way, which now it's able to specifically help me to pinpoint the specific macros. Now, I don't know, I haven't used MyFitnessPal in a while, so maybe it has updated, but it's a competitor, right? So maybe they looked at some of that stuff and was like, oh, we need to do this too. I don't know. But the point is, you can use, some of that workout stuff. I don't know, Google Calendar, right? Right now, when we're talking about automation tools, like Siri will automatically, based on a text message or email, and I'm so bad that I said that. Oh boy, here we go. Yeah, so I actually said the virtual assistant's name, and it awoke in the place. I got to remember not to do that. So, but yeah, it connects through messages or emails. It automatically adds suggested events, flights, even like just based on the confirmation that you'll get through an itinerary right on the calendar, right? So automated tools can help a lot, but you're using these things to just track habits, expenses, schedules, like I just mentioned with Google Calendar and the virtual assistant of your choice. Some people use finance apps. I do. I used to use Mint, but now I use Rocket Money. Rocket Money is pretty solid. And then the more you automate these tasks, it reduces the mental load. We call it the cognitive load, right? That also helps you to maintain consistency. The point is to get a lot of this stuff done with apps. I mean, now they have AI agents now, like things that you just outsource really to, and it's not even to another person now. It's to other tech, which I know it's hurting people's jobs right now. I think Meta's cutting another like 3,000 people, with like a 5% of the workforce because they're, they call it the underperformers that they're removing, but it's also because there's AI tech that's out there now that can do those underperformers jobs. All right. So as you can see, there's a lot. I mean, we've been going on for an hour on how to do these things. I'm just walking through these things because you're not going to do all of it. But my hope is that you at least start off with reflecting. Reflect on what it is that you've already done, where you are, where you want to be, and then look at the gap. Fill in the gap with a system, fill in the gap with a person, fill in the gap with, something that's going to help you to go to the next level. We have a whole hour of what you can fill that gap with. All right. So you reflect, you evaluate, you reassess if necessary, to reprioritize. But listen, some of the common pitfalls that we've got when you're kind of doing this is, let's look at the other side of it. When you don't prioritize, I told you how important it is to prioritize. So when you fail to prioritize, personally, if you're just kind of tracking or tackling every self-improvement goal at once, you're going to burn out. Business-wise, if you're kind of just spreading your resources equally across all projects, you're going to dilute the impact, which is still another form of burnout. When you're choosing to ignore the early warning signs, like, so for instance, from a personal perspective, if you're ignoring or slipping into old habits, you're missing workouts repeatedly. Listen, this week was rough. I showed up late every day, even if it was 5 minutes. I showed up late every day to the gym this week. It was tough. And even my trainer was like, yeah, this was a rough week for you. But I showed up. Okay. I didn't miss, but it was because I'm usually either right on it or even before. But this week, oh man, it was tough getting there. But I got it in. And was able to get the full hour because I don't think that there were any clients right after me. So I was able to kind of make up for that time, right? But the point is, that is a testament, though, to just making sure that I get more sleep. And even he mentioned, he was like, listen, even though you didn't get more sleep yet, like, you're still working on that. He's like, I can tell when your performance is it's different. It's different when you are hitting all of the other things, when you're walking, when you're getting your steps in and all that, which by the way, I got to do. I know tonight's a late night, so I'm gonna just get that in, and I'm gonna head to bed pretty soon. But the other thing too is, if you're neglecting to prioritize your goals, if you're ignoring the early warning signs, many of us fall into this trap, overcomplicating the adjustments. High achievers, hear me clearly. What you don't want to do is you don't want to make radical changes, right? Start small, build on what's working first. And the way that you know it's working first is you reflect, see the progresses that were made. Like, don't try to change everything, drastically altering your schedule or even your diet, because you don't want to cause confusion. You don't want to cause stress. Increments, y'all. Increments. Business, y'all. I think y'all know this from a business perspective. If you make some sudden and large scale organizational changes, oftentimes it can create panic or it can undermine morale. What you also don't want to do is you don't want to drag things out either, because that can also we call you want to be able to tame the rumor mill, right? Which is also a trade-off. So it's just really a balance, right, of how to navigate that. But the point is, what you want to do is kind of introduce targeted incremental adjustments when the goals start to fall off track from a business perspective. So there are, like I said, there are a few things that you can look at even from a pitfall perspective, so that you can avoid those things, and then you can take a look at where you are in the middle of January to hit your goals. All right. Poor communication is another one. This is just like the reverse of the stuff that I was telling you before. So sometimes we don't take it from a positive perspective. So when we look at pitfalls, it's like, oh man, yeah, I got to communicate more. Well, I just said that half an hour ago, but sometimes you got to see it through that way too. You got to see it through the negative, the impact of what poor communication has, in order for you to be like, oh wow, yeah, I really do need to make sure that I communicate a little bit better, right? So when you don't, for instance, we're not saying to share everything, but if you don't share your experiences or your goals or hurdles with an accountability partner or someone that you can trust, it often leads to isolation. And when you feel isolated, you then have a higher chance of reverting back to old habits. So you want to be careful with that. Business wise, I think y'all already know, if you don't communicate properly, misunderstandings can lead to distrust, and that distrust can spread. And so you want to be proactive. You want to have clear messaging so that you can maintain alignment. That's quintessential. All right. If anybody was waiting for this, from a C-level perspective, it's going to be the same stuff that we talked about before. Everything from strategic alignment to resource planning and budgeting, risk management. It's a big one. C-level leaders. High-level communication. High-level communication is where you're providing clarity and resource to stakeholders. Remember, this is not now just to employees. This is like being communicating the bigger picture that the company has, so that they're on track with their strategic goals, right? Empowering your senior managers, right? Encouraging your VPs and your directors to just develop tailored mid-month review processes if necessary. Listen, you probably don't need mid-month from a C-level perspective. Maybe monthly, quarterly, definitely. All right. So, but it all depends on how you structured, your internal comms, and then also, what works, what cadence works for your teams and for the company. All right. And then also from a cultural leadership perspective, just kind of, making sure and understanding that the start of the year, it's just prime time to reinforce company values and culture. Like I said, yes, cliche, new year, use that as an opportunity to just remind, like, hey, this is who we are. This is why we're here. This is our mission. Let's go. Let's get it. 2025, we're here. Let's go get it. All right. So anyway, I could share more, but I'm going to do that. We've been on for a little over an hour, and I think tomorrow I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to tap into the creative juices tomorrow. but that would be more so on probably like Twitch, IG Live. I'm gonna have to separate it. Like I said, LinkedIn is a little weird with content and the audience and whatnot. So, if y'all are interested in that, let me know. But that's it. I hope that you guys have a wonderful evening. I'm going to get my remaining steps in, all 8,000 of them, which will take me probably another 45 minutes to an hour. See y'all tomorrow.